This project begins with the fabric. Most of the time we simply choose from what's already available, whether it's from a fabric store or an online retailer. But for this project, I wanted to ask the question, what if I designed the fabric first? I started with nothing more than a hand-painted gingham, transformed it into a digital textile, had it professionally printed, and then built an entire summer outfit around it. Along the way, I learned quite a bit about textile design, digital printing, and why what looks perfect on a computer screen doesn't always translate onto fabric. I created this gingham using paint markers on toned paper. There's not anything particularly complicated about it. In fact, I wanted to keep this design simple. My goal wasn't to reinvent gingham, it was to create a pattern that looked familiar from across the room, but revealed something completely different as you moved in closer. From a distance, this fabric will read as a classic woven gingham, but up close you realize it's actually a hand-painted drawing made from irregular brush strokes and overlapping marks. That little moment of discovery interests me. I also wanted to preserve the evidence that it had been made by hand. Too often we scan artwork into the computer and immediately begin correcting every imperfection. I wasn't interested in doing that. Those inconsistencies are what give handmade work its character, and I wanted the finished fabric to retain some of that personality. Once the artwork was scanned into Photoshop, I began building the repeat. Designing the repeating textile is a very different exercise from creating an illustration. The challenge isn't making one beautifully square, it's making sure that square can repeat over without anyone noticing there's one repeat ending and one beginning. If you've watched my wallpaper video, you will recognize some of these ideas. The same principles apply here. Whether it's a straight repeat, a half drop, or another repeat structure, the goal is always to create something that appears continuous rather than mechanical. With the repeat complete, I separated the artwork into individual layers and began experimenting with color. I eventually settled on two colorways, one in a deep magenta and another in a rich blue. Together they felt bold enough to make a statement, but restrained enough that they could still function as wardrobe pieces. They reminded me of the kind of playful resort collections that luxury fashion houses often release, where the color becomes part of the personality without overwhelming the design. Before sending the artwork to print, it's worth understanding something about digitally printing textiles. What you see on your monitor is never a guarantee of what you'll receive in the mail. Every fiber accepts color differently. Different fabrics, surface finishes, and printing methods all influence the final result. The artwork may be identical, but the fabric itself becomes part of the design process. For this project, I ordered the artwork on two different materials. The shirt would be made from a cotton lawn, while the shorts would be a stretch synthetic appropriate for swimwear. Once everything was ready, I uploaded my files into Spoonflower. Just a quick side note, this is not sponsored. Spoonflower simply happens to be the service I chose for this project, and there are several companies today offering textile printing. What's exciting about this, though, is how much the industry has changed. Not very long ago, custom textile printing was largely reserved for fashion houses and manufacturers ordering hundreds of yards at a time. Today, individual, independent makers can produce just a yard or two of completely original fabric. That's a remarkable shift because it gives independent designers access to tools that were once reserved exclusively for the industry. These pieces are part of a matching set from a pattern by Norris Dánta Ford. It is Simplicity S9758. It includes a shirt and matching shorts, but I did make a few adjustments to the pattern, so you have to keep that in mind. I did want these to be swim trunks, so I did add a netting inside the swim trunk and I hemmed them up a lot higher so that they were more sporty. And then in the shirt, I kept the shirt pretty much same to the pattern, but wanted to just execute a color block in the paneling so that I could have some design choices made in the pieces. The short remained largely unchanged, although the collarless construction pushed me slightly outside of my comfort zone. It's not something I normally wear, but the relaxed silhouette felt appropriate for the summer resort look, and the shirt is very cropped. The biggest design decision came from the fabric placement. Rather than using the one print throughout, I color blocked both garments. The blue became the primary fabric, while the front panel on the shirt and the short became the magenta version. It's a subtle detail that visually has a lot of impact, but it creates a conversation between the two garments. I did my best to match the pattern vertically and horizontally across the garment. But again, because of the shape of the body and the shape of the pattern, there were some discrepancies there. Sometimes the most interesting design decisions happen after the fabric has already been printed. I'm extremely happy with the result. The garments are comfortable, they're lightweight, and they have personality that simply wouldn't exist if I had purchased this fabric off shelf. Ironically, I almost never wear these two together. The shirt has become something I throw on with jeans or shorts throughout the summer, while the swim trunks I have taken out on a life of their own at the pool. And I actually like that, because for me, this project was never really about creating a matching set. It was about changing the order of the design process. And it also gives a lens into how designers think of things when they present them on a runway. Instead of asking, what can I make with this fabric, I asked, what fabric should exist for this garment combo that I'm going to make? It feels much more interesting, and it feels like a better design problem. It's also one of the reasons I've been spending more time exploring textile designs with my friend. We've been experimenting with marbling, hand painting, surface pattern design, and other techniques that begin with making the material itself, often before we have any idea of the final object and what that fabric will become. I think that's where a lot of creativity lives. Luxury has never simply been about expensive materials alone. It's about intention. It's about making thoughtful decisions. And it happens at the very beginning of the process and continues throughout. Sometimes those decisions start long before the first pattern piece is even cut. I hope this project encourages you to look at fabric a little differently. It isn't just the material we sew. Sometimes it's the first design decision that we get to make. Thanks for spending some time with me today. If you enjoyed following this project from painting to finished garment, I'd really appreciate you subscribing to the channel. Right now I'm switching over into Halloween, so Halloween projects are just around the corner, and I've got some fun ideas planned. I'll see you in the next one.